Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. Thank you so very much for being part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. We're really excited today. We are celebrating Native American Awareness Month, and we're also celebrating National Kindness Day with Monique Gray Smith, the author of When We Are Kind. Before we invite Monique in, we want to let you know about Wonder Crate. Are you looking for the perfect holiday gift to inspire a love of reading? With Wonder Crate, kids get a fun-filled package in the mail each month with a new book and activities that introduce them to real people who use their courage, perseverance, and passion to make the world a better place. Read about Sally Ride, the first American woman to fly in space and make your own glow-in-the-dark constellations. Read about Frank Lloyd Wright and build your own architectural masterpiece. We introduce your kids to new innovators, activists, and artists each month because who they see shows them who they can be. Order today at WonderCrateKids.com. That's WonderCrateKids.com. Now use the code word READ and you'll get 10% off any subscription. This holiday season, give the kids you love a gift that will inspire. Wonder Crate. Go to WonderCrateKids.com. Use that code word READ for 10% off all subscriptions. Joining us on the line right now from Victoria and British Columbia in the beautiful nation of Canada. She is the author of a beautiful new book called We Are Kind. Please welcome to the show, Monique Gray Smith. Monique, how are you?
I am beautiful today, feeling really good. Thank you for asking.
I'm so happy that you're joining us here, and I'm so happy that you've written When We Are Kind. That is a message that I've been trying to share with kids through my educational magic shows for decades now, that whole idea of choosing to be kind to ourselves and also to others. Why don't you tell us about the book, and then we'll talk about what inspired you to write it.
The book actually takes the way of looking at kindness in four ways. So yes, when we're kind to ourselves, like getting a good night's sleep, eating healthy food, when we're kind to others, and how does that feel? And it also looks at being kind to the earth. And how do we, in all of those ways, take care of the planet? So not just the earth, but the water, the atmosphere, everything. So it really is about kindness to the animals, to the land, to the water, to ourselves, and to each other.
Now this is I love that, and it makes perfect sense that we should be teaching kids from a very young age to be kind to everything, that all these things are interconnected. And you would think that in this, this society that has this technology that allows me and you on different sides of a continent to speak and to see each other, but somehow this, as we would say here in Boston, this wicked smart society forgot that.
Yeah. And I think that, who reminds us are the animals, right? Like one of the pages is, I feel comforted when my cat is kind to me, like the comfort that animals can give to us, and I feel kind when I take my dog on an extra long walk. So we can learn from the animals and from the earth about kindness in ways that sometimes we forget. You're exactly right. We forget as humans about the not only importance of kindness, but really that it is a medicine for each of us to be healthy and vibrant human beings. And I think our littlest citizens, the children, they are citizens. And if we're not role modeling and showing them how to be kind and for them to be kind to each other and themselves and the animals and the earth, then in 15 or 20 years, not only are we going to forget, but we're going to be in trouble. Yeah.
It's interesting. I remember having a conversation with my priest about maybe 15 years ago. And I remember us telling him that I was developing this routine that talked about kindness and talked about, hey, this is a really good thing to do because it makes you feel good inside. And his response was, oh, you shouldn't teach that. You should just tell kids to be kind because they're supposed to be obedient. And that just didn't make sense to me. This is science teaches us that when we're kind to others, we feel good. And, so science is kind of figuring out what a lot of cultures have known forever.
And I don't want my children to grow up. It's funny we have this conversation today because tomorrow my twins turn 17.
Congratulations.
Yes,
my condolences.
It's kind of wild.
I don't know which I should.
But I don't want them growing up to be obedient. That's not a word that I want them to be described. I want them to be kind and respectful and generous and loving. But obedient isn't one of the words that I want them to be. Mm-hmm. Because I think in that, then we put them in a box of how they have to be in order to be accepted. And it doesn't allow for all ways of humanity to show up. And it's in the all ways that humanity shows up that our kindness actually comes out. That it isn't an obligation to be kind, but it's like, oh, I feel my heart, like you said, or my head responding. And so my natural inclination is to be kind.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important in these times.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important. I was listening to somebody today who was talking about human beings. They're greedy. They're naturally greedy. They're naturally envious of others. And I don't buy that. I think that our natural state is to be kind and loving. But we have a lot of influences. And a lot of the influences are coming from things like social media and the media and different political groups and from every political group. So I'm not picking sides. None of them are pure. And so we're getting all these pressures to want, and people are telling us you don't have enough, you don't have everything you need, and to get this to be cool, get this to be loved. And that drives a lot of that selfishness, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we need each other, right? Like we need each other. And that's why I chose to write the book like I did, that I need to take care of myself so that I can be a contributing member of society. I need others to take care of me so that I can also, again, be a contributing member of society. I need the earth to take care of me so that I'm healthy. And I need animals around in whatever way, even if you're not an animal lover. People in your life probably love animals, and when they're around, they bring us comfort. Like I can remember a couple months ago, my son plays baseball, and he'd had a decent outing, but the coach had gone up one side and down the other, and he'd come home and he was quite upset. And about an hour later, I was sitting in the backyard, and he was in his room, and I noticed that our cat was sitting outside of his window on the tiny little ledge, looking in his window to make sure he was okay. So, I think when we need to feel cared for, all we have to do is look outside and see, like the trees that are giving us oxygen so we can breathe. Yeah. If we didn't have these trees, we'd be in big trouble. And it's not like they set out to grow to be kind to us. It's like us as human beings. If I set out to be kind, then my motive is a little bit off. But it's our natural inclination. And I do think exactly like you said, sometimes it gets role modeled out of us. Or we get taught that, no, you take care of you. Instead of, how do we take care of my family, my community? How do I contribute to the wellness of the world? Yeah. And when we raise children to think about that, to think about what are the gifts that I've been blessed with. And when I use that word, I mean like, what is it that I can uniquely contribute to the world? Because your gifts, Jed, and my gifts are very different. And like everybody listening has their own unique bundle of gifts. But if we don't use them, then our contributions to the wellness of the world are lost. Mm-hmm. And kindness is usually in almost every single human being's bundle of gifts.
Absolutely. Now, you were talking about making the choice to write this book and making a choice to be kind to yourself and to take care of yourself. You made another choice in writing this book to have it translated into Navajo. Where did that choice come from?
Oh, well, I would love to say that that was my choice, but that wasn't my choice. When We Are Kind is illustrated by Nicole Neidhart. Beautiful, beautiful illustrations. And she is Diné, Navajo, and Scottish. And so the publisher, Orca Book Publishers, chose to do it as a dual language book and honor her language in it. A couple of other books that they've done for me honor my Cree language. So one of the books is called My Heart Fills with Happiness. It's available in English and Cree, as well as another book called You Hold Me Up, available in English and Cree. So they're one of the very first publishers in Canada that are doing dual language children's books in English and one of the Indigenous languages of either the author or the illustrator. And I love that. I think it's so important. One of the things they've also done is they've left space underneath the text of both translations so that children who are of another language, their family can put that language in the book too, so that children see themselves on the pages. Like, that is so important, not only visually, but the language on the page. Incredibly important.
That's beautiful. I was going to say, this marks a milestone for us. This is the first time we've been celebrating a book that's been translated into a native language, Indigenous language. As far as I know, there may have been one, and I just wasn't aware of it. But we've had lots of books that have been translated into Chinese and Spanish and Portuguese and German and even Welsh, I think. But I love that that Indigenous kids get a chance to read and see their language being in kids' books. I also love that idea of leaving that space so that a Spanish-speaking family or a Japanese-speaking family can add their words into the page. I mean, Boston's we almost speak a different language here. We could probably write our own dialect in there.
Well, there is a beautiful book that came out just over a year ago called We Are Grateful by Tracy Sorel, and it is translated into Cherokee. And it is so beautiful, Jed. I really encourage you to read that book. It's so beautiful.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm guessing that a lot of the wisdom that you're passing down in When We Are Kind. It sounds like it might have come from your Cree background and your culture. Am I right about that?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely rooted in those traditions and the teachings that I've received, as well as just my journey of the people I've met throughout my life and the privilege of sitting with elders and cultural knowledge holders who talk about how do we walk this earth, and, how will people remember us, that it won't always be about what we did, but about how they felt, how people feel in our presence. And, we can be kind by, giving somebody a smile. It doesn't have to be something usually demonstrative. It can be as simple as, I see you, right? And I think about how many people in our society don't feel seen today. And so those importances.
That is so true. My beautiful wife and I have been leading a ministry through our church that serves desserts to folks living in a homeless shelter. And people have always come up to us and said, and we have it's a huge ministry. There are hundreds of people who bake we take turns baking, and then we have probably 30 or 40 people who serve. And one of the things that I try to get across to the people who are serving is that, the treats are great and the cakes are wonderful, but what really makes a difference for the guests at the shelter is when we look them in the eye and we give them a smile and we see them and we ask them what they would like and we serve them. And at that point, the treat becomes, it's icing on the cake. The real dessert, the real treat is that interaction between, even if it's only a minute, that smile, that recognition, seeing somebody is so important. It makes such a difference in their life. It's for sure. It's been a humbling experience for us.
Beautiful, yeah. And it is about relationships, right? Our relationships with each other, ourselves, again with the land and with the animals. Like all of those relationships help to feed us so that we can be healthy, vibrant human beings.
I love that, the idea of relationships feeding us. Can you expand more on that? Because I just you know, I'm thinking of the people in my life and my beautiful wife, my daughter, my son, my niece, and how I'm fed, how my spirit is fed by the time we spend together.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's one page in When We Are Kind that says, I feel joy when my family is kind to our elders. And Nicole did this beautiful illustration of young people bringing food to elders. And one of the elders puts her hand on one of the girls' faces just so gently. And it is such a beautiful image around the relationships and the reciprocal aspect of relationships. And I would imagine that your family, who you just all described when you're with them, how you feel, that they probably in that reciprocal relationship feel the same way.
Yeah.
And sometimes people who have been, you know, perhaps for whatever reason, a little bit pushed out of society, they may not be able to reciprocate those relationships. But that kindness to them fills them up so that maybe in 5 days or a year, they're in a different place that they can then be in a reciprocal relationship again. And so, you know, relationships, it's like, and I talk a lot about this with children, is about the importance of getting outside, that our relationship with the land and the water and the stars and the sky and the sun is really important. Like you think about yourself on a rainy Monday morning, how does your day start? But on a sunny Monday morning, when you step outside, it's like, oh, because we have that sun is like a beacon of joy. It fills us. Yes, the rain can heal us for sure, but that sun brings something different. So the relationship is really important, not only with us, with humans, but in ways that sometimes we don't always think about.
Yeah. And you're talking about our relationship with the sun and getting outside and how it makes us feel better. One of the things we're learning from the pandemic is the need for vitamin D that we get from the sun, and we almost all have a deficiency of it because we spend so much time inside.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things you touched on was this idea of learning from the elders. I think that's something that we've really lost. I've spoken a lot with authors on the show. I know my wife's family is originally from Puerto Rico, so I'm very familiar with that culture and some other Latin cultures. And one of the things I love about those cultures when I visit Puerto Rico or Central America is that it's not unusual to go to an event, a concert, and see little kids dancing with their grandparents and mothers and fathers, and it's an intergenerational thing. Where here, I don't know about Canada, but I know here in the States, that's really, especially in big cities, that doesn't happen that much. We're seen to be not only fragmented, you know, racially and culturally, but also generationally. And so that there are young people who are only listening to other young people and elders who are only commiserating and complaining with other elders. And I think it's so healthy when those intergenerational relationships happen, because there's so much young people can learn from elders, and there's so much elderly people can get, so much energy we can get from young people.
Mm-hmm. And so much elders can learn from young people also.
Yes.
Yeah, totally. And I see, you know, like when my mom comes, like they're just like, there's an exuberance for them when she's here or when we go visit her that is different than other times in their lives, because they know, well, she's a character for one. So they know it's going to be fun and charismatic, and there'll be lots of, in my language, we call her cookum, which means grandma. There's going to be lots of cookum stories because that's who she is. But they have learned so much from that relationship. And not only from her, but how do you care for elders? Right? The little things that sometimes we don't think about, like going to open the door, making sure you bring food to them or welcome them with tea or something to drink. making sure they have the best seat in the house, like all of these little nuances that hold up their dignity and hold up their respect and honor them for the journey that they've had that we have not yet had. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, but also I see in my mom the exuberance she gets from being around them, right? Like it really is this relationship that feeds each other, and it always has. Mm-hmm. You know, she used to come, we live about a 2-hour ferry ride, then about a 4-hour drive from her. And we would see her every 2 to 3 months because that relationship, it was so beautiful to watch. And I encourage anybody listening to think about, you know, who are the elders or the young people that you can bring into your life a little bit more. And yes, the pandemic has us a bit more challenged with that for sure. But I think more so now, you know, our elders need a delivery of cake drop off or a check-in, or we're going to be getting, you know, winter months here, their driveway shoveled or the leaves raked, or those little things that let them know that they're cared for, even if we can't go inside and visit or anything. But those little things that let them know they're cared for, I think, are really, really important in these times. I see it with my dad. We have a friendship center here, which is a gathering place for Indigenous people. And he was going 2, 3, 4 times a week. And then when the pandemic hit, it was closed. Mm-hmm. And I saw him decline, not only his physical health, but his mental health, his emotional health, and his spiritual health. Because we all have this innate need to feel like we belong, that we're part of a community. And when that gets disrupted, for young people, it alters their moral compass. And so they act in ways that might be out of integrity. But for elders, what it does is it begins to impact their health. Mm-hmm. And things begin to shut down slowly. Mm. So I just think we're in times when we really, really need to care for each other.
Absolutely. We're fortunate to live in a little neighborhood. It's kind of hidden. Reedville is this neighborhood in Boston that most people don't know about. And it's that type of neighborhood that you're talking about, where people will go out and shovel the driveway for an elderly person, or take look out for each other's, others' homes when they go on vacation. All those little things that were taken for granted maybe 50 or 60 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it really makes this a very special place. And I would love if families could take a book like When We Are Kind and start having a conversation about who can we be kind mm-hmm. to in our neighborhood, in our family.
Mm-hmm. And to reflect on also, how does it feel when somebody's kind to us? Because of the change in generations, we're not always raised to accept kindness, that we push it away. And then what we do is we rob the person who's wanting to be kind to us from that experience also. So sometimes it's about, because I think sometimes there's been this raising of, well, if somebody has to be kind to you, then you must be weak, or, you must need something. And it's like, no, sometimes there's just these acts of kindness that and sometimes actually alter our whole life's trajectory.
Yeah, absolutely. There are times in my life when a word has changed my life, has changed the way I was looking. There was a moment in high school when I was playing soccer, and I had this image of myself, and a visiting coach came in preseason and watched me play, and changed the way I was looking at myself playing. And I went from sitting on the bench to never sitting on the bench again in a game throughout the rest of high school and through college. And it was one sentence by one stranger. And it's incredible what that one thing can do to change someone's life.
Yeah, that our words can be medicine or not. I have a similar story. I applied for the School of Social Work at the university here, and I'm trained as a psychiatric nurse, so I was working in the hospital, and I had to write a personal statement about why I wanted to be a social worker. And then I came down for the interview, and there was 5 women sitting in the panel. I'd never been in a panel interview before, and I was like, ugh. But like a force pushed me into my chair, and I went through my interview. And as I was leaving, I had my hand on the door, and one of those women said, I look forward to reading your book one day. And I didn't think she was talking to me because I didn't graduate from high school. I had to go back to get my grade 12. At that point, I was only 6 months sober. So I had a lot of self-limiting beliefs. And so I kept opening the door, and she said, no, wait, Monique, I'm talking to you. I look forward to reading your book one day. And it wasn't until over 20 years later that I started to write, but in that she spoke my future, and something inside of me woke up. And so all of these books, like I have 8 books now, maybe they might have happened, I don't know, but she was the catalyst by her kind words. Wow. And especially when I'm working with teachers, I tell that story a lot because they have such influence in these lives of the littlest citizens from kindergarten or preschool all the way through post-secondary.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we could sit here all night long and sharing stories, Monique. I just love it. When We Are Kind, it's a beautiful book. As you said, it's beautifully illustrated. Anything else that you haven't shared with us about the book? I'm just imagining all the preschool and kindergarten kids gathering around. I wish this was available when my kids were sitting on my lap reading books, because we loved reading books about kindness.
Well, one of the things is how Orca has laid out the book is the colors and the illustrations. The colors that have been chosen for educators, they begin to lower the cortisol and they elevate the oxytocin. So they alter the brain chemistry so children go, ah. And I don't know, every time I look at it, I go, ah, because of the colors Nicole chose, and then the layout people chose, that beautiful purple and the greens, and they just calm our central nervous system so that we can, in many ways, then be better citizens, right? Because when I'm like stressed or worried about what's going to happen next, my ability to be a healthy, vibrant citizen is compromised because I'm worried about me and not being a citizen. So that would be the only other piece that I would share, is that it's really been designed in many ways. There have been lots of strategies thinking about how do we lay out this book so that it upholds the dignity of the reader, of the children who are reading it, and the adults.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
And if anybody is out there thinking that this is woo-woo stuff, the colors can lower this and raise this, I just got to let you know, the advertisers have known this for a long time. You've been manipulated by Coke and Pepsi and Adidas and all those other places, and they do all sorts of studies. All those colors in those commercials, they are intentional. There's science behind that. Monique,
there's a reason why commercials are not black and white.
That's right. Monique, please tell us where our friends can go to find out more about you and all the books that you've written.
Well, you can easily Google my name, Monique Gray, Gray Smith, and you'll find the website. On there are all the books. Please access books from your local independent bookstores. That would be my preference. Support people who are in your communities and in your towns and in your cities.
And a great thing to do, if you go to your independent bookstore and you can't find When We Are Kind on the bookshelf, just take a second, go over to your friendly bookseller and request it. All they have to do is hit a few keys and it'll be there in 2 days.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for that. Yes.
Yeah. We've had a wonderful time speaking to the author of When We Are Kind, Monique Gray Smith. Monique, thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Oh, my privilege. I appreciate it very much.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Sandhya Acharya. We'll be celebrating her book, 10 Gulab Jamins, and also continuing our celebration of Diwali. That's the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Hey, we want to invite you again to be sure to visit WonderCrateKids.com for a fantastic holiday gift that's sure to inspire a love of reading in the kids that you love. Go to WonderCrateKids.com. If you use the code word READ, you'll get 10% off any of their wonderful subscriptions. That's WonderCrateKids.com. We want to thank the folks who made today's show so very wonderful. We want to thank our guest, Monique Gray Smith. Please be sure to check out When We Are Kind. We want to thank our sponsor, Wonder Crate. We want to thank my incredible team, Alejandra Doherty, Fatima Khan, Peggy Cotto. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.